Right about now. Good afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I'm Dr. Christopher Vogelman here with Total Health Live with Monika Klein, and we have unfortunately gotten started late because of technical difficulties. You could hear Monika, but you just couldn't see her because she was in total stealth mode.
Yes, and I'm having to use my other computer.
You look great. This actually looks really good. You should reconsider this for future broadcasts.
I'm surrounded by computers everywhere.
You said you had 4 of them.
All of them have one thing or another wrong with them.
Or if you could just bundle them all together, you might have one good machine.
On this one, I lost my complete Microsoft Office last week.
That's okay.
And
I'm not a fan
my
of
Chromebook
Office.
was not completely set up. That was for my husband. And then I lost my camera on the other one. So it's like it would be nice to have all of these things work at the same time.
We used to joke years ago because my mom, as she aged into close to her 90s, she was having problems, in terms of vascular dementia. And my dad was as sharp but her body was amazing. And my dad had a super sharp mind into his 90s, but his body was kind of falling apart from congestive heart failure and other things all happening at once. So we used to say if we could just combine both of them, we'd have one fully functioning parent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my mother's still, she's 99. She turned 99 at the beginning of the month, and she's
there she goes.
She's in pretty good shape, only in a wheelchair. I mean, she has a few minor things, but
she was a minor?
Okay.
Coal miner? Diamond miner?
She was a miner of children and good food.
I was going to say, she's too old to be a minor. Don't you have to be like 16 or 17 or something like that? Or younger?
Oh, that kind of minor. Okay.
Not that kind of minors. Hey, she was a minor, but not a 49er because her name's not Clementine. Anyway, stream of conscious children's songs from the 1960s.
Stream of consciousness.
Trying to
handle myself.
You need your hip waders to get into the stream. Hey, so we're talking about what's latest and greatest and the news that you can use. I put this little overlay here, but I failed to recognize that we wouldn't be able to see Monika Klein. We just see Monika Klein. We don't see Coaching for Health. But if I do this, you can see Monika Klein Coaching for Health.
Yes, you can.
So hey, I'm experimenting. I'm trying to play with
overlays.
overlay.
Can we go to the close up again because I wouldn't mind that. Oh, there you are. Very close.
Very close up. How about that? You like that better?
That's fine. I just have to
you're going to straighten up for us?
I have to get some notes.
No, I don't need no stinking notes. Hey, so this week we see a resurgence in coronavirus cases throughout the nation. Several weeks after Memorial Day and after multiple protests with civil unrest. And I'm getting an echo from your computer. I'm hearing my own voice, unless you have me on a phone also. I don't know.
I do not.
Okay, well, I'm echoing from your end because I can tell. Now it's disappearing.
Okay, good.
Now. It's gone now. Yay.
Still trying to organize my seating situation here. I mean, this is all very makeshift right now because I just had to switch computers quickly, as we talked about.
Are you shifty? You're making shiftiness, or
a resurgence in COVID, not only here in the U.S. but also in India and Brazil.
True, those are some big hotspots. Russia's got a big bunch of cases too. So
yeah, and I've been watching this very interesting academic. His name is Dr. John Campbell. Have you heard of him?
Campbell. I know Joseph Campbell, but that's more mythology.
Yes, I love Joseph Campbell. I used to call myself a Campbellarian.
You're not a Campbellette?
Campbellarians, no. So John Campbell is an academic in England, and he's apparently been doing these YouTube videos for 12 years, but now has become a rock star in the last 4 months because he is reporting on COVID, and he's very credible, extremely credible, has a lot of research to back him down. He actually speaks with almost like as if he's using an overhead projector.
Oh,
Because he has
he's
sheets
got
and he
he's got
moves them up.
he's got slides in his head.
He's got sheets of typed information, and he slides it up and identifies what he's speaking about. And he's had some really interesting people that he's interviewed. He interviewed a physician, an internist from Sweden, because they are fine. They're admitting that
they had the great experiment of herd immunity, and now it's not working.
It did not work, apparently. Nope. And so they were talking about this particular physician and Dr. John Campbell. This physician's name is Dr. Tellinger from Sweden. And they were talking simply about how oxygen, antibiotics, and IV fluids are really beneficial for helping patients with COVID.
It doesn't surprise me because most diseases respond really well with hydration, with the exception of congestive heart failure and certain edematous types of diseases where your legs swell up and your lungs fill up. You don't want that necessarily, but anything that you can do to improve circulation and to improve the movement of toxins out of the body and reduce the viral load is a good thing.
Well, when this first started, I remember listening to a Dr. Joseph Mercola interview about, IV vitamin C, how that would be extremely beneficial. So,
and mind you, it's not a cure; it's something that helps people recover.
Yeah, it helps people because what we're finding is there's like a threat of long-term effects of COVID. Right. People aren't just getting the disease, and like those recovery statistics are really not accurate because people are suffering and will be suffering for years. We don't know how much damage, say for example, the lung is experiencing.
Because scarring of the lung is one of the findings after people recover from COVID.
Yeah, and the tissue could recover. The tissue could not recover. That's not the right word.
Could not normalize to remain in a non-functional state.
Yeah, exactly.
But not necessarily necrotic tissue. I mean, it's not rotting. So
no. I mean, we don't know that, do we? Is it? Maybe for some it is.
Scarring usually is not a necrotic. It's not really a necrotic process. It's just basically, scar tissue behaves very differently than necrotic tissue. At least that's from what I know from dissection and pathophysiology and things like that. I don't want to throw around these big words anyway, but the reality is too that for some people.
Yeah, why don't you explain what necrotic means? It means
necrotic means it's tissue that's rotting. Think of rotten meat. So if you have something rotting inside your body, your whole immune system goes to work to try and recover from it. You've got, white blood cells, you've got your T cells, your lymphocytes, and all the others trying to be rallied together to get rid of the rotten tissue. And most often, necrotic tissue needs to be either cut out or cut off. For example, if somebody has, I'm not talking about COVID toes, but if somebody has a case of diabetes and they wind up with gangrene in their toes, eventually those toes become necrotic, or the tissue really rots because it doesn't have a normal circulation to it. And for some people, the toe just falls off. For many others, at least here in the West, they will require some sort of a surgery, amputation of toes, for example.
Yeah, so it just means dying tissue, and there's no blood supply, and so the skin turns, everything starts changing color for sure. So we don't know, and hopefully there is a recovery or the tissue is. I'm blanking on the word I'm trying to find, but we can move on.
It rebounds from its diseased state. It's replaced. It becomes mo better.
Mo better.
Okay, would you mo better?
One. Let's just say mo better.
It becomes mo better.
And also, I was just watching this just before we came on about vitamin D, how in England specifically, because he's reporting throughout the world all sorts of global statistics, but he was talking about agencies in the UK discovering that vitamin D, just like in the last month, how beneficial vitamin D is. And of course, the recommendations for vitamin D are so low.
Yeah.
The government recommendations. So,
we call You and I probably both referred to the RDAs often as the ridiculously deficient amounts.
Yeah, he quoted this organization called SCAN, I guess, and he sarcastically called them the Slow Committee Against Nutrition.
So,
But of course, it's got a much more official name, like the the Society of whatever.
The super coronavirus.
No, it sounds more governmental. So
governmental. Okay.
Yeah.
Usually it's
So
like supervisory boards.
Committee is a government committee, but he sarcastically called it otherwise.
The Sarcastic Committee on Nutrition.
Against nutrition. So vitamin D, always recommended.
Yeah, D3, and you're recommending most of the time. I have 5,000 international units per day as a minimum. And if you go too high, your liver is going to get some toxicity. So
yeah, because it is a fat soluble. And interesting too, he was talking about they can do some big dosing initially to get your dosage up. Like first of all, it's important to get your levels checked first of all in a lab to see what you're dealing with. So to get people up to snuff, so to speak, they will give load up on dosing, and you need to load up someone who's obese with more because it goes directly into the adipose tissue, the fat tissue, before it goes into the bloodstream. So,
and fat cells love to hold on to it. I remember, in fact, in my weight loss clinic, that there was an example documented by one of my fellow weight loss clinicians where there was a person who had done a lot of LSD back in the 60s and 70s, and she'd become very obese over a number of years. And as she lost about the first 20 pounds or so, she started tripping because it turned out that the LSD actually hung around in some of her fat cells for decades. Not inert, by the way. So she was
LSD. Does that mean there's D in the LS part?
There must be some D in that LS. So
it's very fascinating. And also looking at the different, the best way to get vitamin D, of course, is to be out in the sun in the morning, 10 to 15, 20 minutes in direct sunlight without any sunscreen on.
I did that this morning as I was watching the redhead doing boogie boarding on the beach.
I saw that was a very empty beach.
It was, but by the time we left at 10 o'clock, it was becoming increasingly full, which is why I wanted to go in the morning. He wanted to go at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I said, not on a Friday.
Yeah. No. It's interesting. Just before I got on, we have a church, a Catholic church in a school next to us.
Yeah.
And I saw the parking lot was about a third full. And now it's been empty for 3 months, but it was about a third full this morning. And then I heard a lot of clapping intermittently. And it sounded like 25 plus, maybe even 50 plus people indoors congregating. So I don't get it. Is your graduation more important than life-saving?
I have a consternation with that congregation.
I just don't get it. But
I mean, the number of people today, in fact, at the beach not wearing masks was downright scary. Which is, I'm glad we went there at 8 o'clock from 8 to 10 instead of hanging on longer, and it's totally bizarre to me because people are turning something that really is a public health issue into something political, and it's just not. And the goal really is to stop the spread of droplets. And I had one person was telling me something, well, I'm not a spitter, so I don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to spit. All you have to do is yell, sing, talk. You don't have to be a spitter to be
loud or normally.
Yeah, normal.
There is, I think there's hardly any way of convincing these people. My cousin's wife sent me this ridiculous thing yesterday, and I have to read this to you. It's a little chart. It goes like, so it's like, It goes, danger of face mask.
Oh yeah, I've seen this thing. This is silly.
Mask is supposed to be used for a long time. If you wear it for a long time, oxygen in the blood reduces, oxygen in the brain reduces, you start feeling weak, 4 may lead to death. And then I thought, have you told the nurses and the doctors, the people who wear it all day long?
Every doctor and nurse should be dead by now if that is true. By the way, there should be no surviving hockey goalies in the NHL or the AHL because goalies wear masks and they're not dead. In fact, they're high performance athletes.
Yeah, well, that's a different kind of mask.
I know, but still, it does provide a degree of shielding, and there is some blockage of oxygen. But nevertheless, I mean, surgeons should be dead.
Well,
all medical practitioners should be dead.
Our home should be like, I should be coming downstairs and they'd be lying on the ground. It's like, there is no logic to this.
There is no logic. So here it is. EMTs, emergency medical technicians, should all be dead. Police and soldiers. I mean, we see sailors and officers here in Coronado because we have several military bases around us. They're wearing masks and they are not falling dead in the streets, and they're wearing the masks all day long. So you need to explain to me the logic behind this. So it's as if people are looking for information and infographics and memes to prove a belief that they feel more comfortable with because they don't like science.
Well, there is no logic. There's no logic to this. It's just being contrary. I want to be contrary.
I want to be unique. It's nuts. It's nuts. I was listening to somebody saying that this fellow was saying somewhere in, I can't remember which county it was, but before his particular board, and they were requiring the citizens of this general area to wear masks. And he was going on about he would die for this flag and die for this country. Well, if he's not wearing his mask, he has a pretty good chance of dying or making someone else die. So it's so bizarre to me. But then again, right now, before we went on too, I also saw a giant picture from a beach in the UK, and nobody's wearing masks. Everybody's close together, and the British government is referring to it as a major COVID incident, and they want to round up all these people because they do believe it's going to have a major outbreak. So, pretty scary.
I mean, really, I don't. I am victim to being one of those people that back to vitamin D again. Not getting enough sunshine, direct sunshine.
Mind
so
you,
I take my vitamin D.
Vitamin D is good.
Vitamin D on a daily basis, 5,000.
I take my vitamin D and I use my mask. So.
Yes, I use my mask and I use gloves. But it was interesting. Also, interesting data about. Ethnicities, which I think we just touched upon last week.
Briefly.
Yeah. And how a darker complexion person, does not burn, but they slowly produce vitamin D. Whereas a lighter skinned person, they burn easily, but they produce vitamin C pretty quickly.
Vitamin D, not vitamin C.
They're thinking that this might be explaining why, in India that there might be an increase, and even in Brazil there might be an increase in certain populations. There's an increased incidence, unfortunately.
I think we're going to find out there's two things going on. I mean, this is my speculation, that there is a genetic component that renders some people more vulnerable. And it's the same genetic component that may render certain populations towards more diabetes or more heart disease. And maybe that is somehow associated towards lung problems. And then there is another component that I think too, which is
clotting. There's also a clotting gene, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's specifically clotting.
Well, and beyond the genetic component, I'm thinking there's a socioeconomic component too, because those with the best access to healthcare tend to have far better outcomes than those who are, say, without health insurance or depend upon public assistance or who just ignore symptoms and hope they go away. So.
I think there's also a blood type correlation. I saw a study a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not sure, I haven't really, verified it, but I did see a study correlating certain blood types as well. So that, the research,
we probably won't know very much at all for like another 2 or 3 years. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We're kind of groping in the dark when it
Longer.
comes to this. I mean, I was
Longer.
even going through one of my textbooks today looking for more answers. I was going through Cecil's textbook of medicine. And so I'm in the virology section, and it's just phenomenal because almost everything that's written in the medical textbooks is, and this is a couple of decades old, but medicine hasn't changed too much in the last few decades, except we've gotten new things. And one of the things that struck me was they always are talking about the idea that these are human to human viruses, as opposed to something that arises from an animal and then is encountered by a human. It's very interesting because they when even the scant mention of viruses that have been transmitted from animals to humans is, oh my God, watch out, these are horrible. And this is from a couple decades ago. Crazy.
So are you saying that, well, it's still the jury is definitely out if it was not transferred from an animal? I doubt that. I always doubted that, unless it was a carrier of something.
No, a novel virus is something that has not before been seen within the human beings as a disease or disease entity.
Yeah, I understand that.
So in one way or another, it came from one species, only because when you check out the genome of the virus, you find that not only has it been mutating, and there's more than one strain currently, but that the human immune system, by and large, as far as we can tell, has not developed the antibodies necessary to combat it. And so it's new information flooding into the species.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a novel virus can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be from an animal.
It hasn't been seen, but so we can go at all these speculations. I've got people even in my household who are betting on conspiracy theories that it was manufactured by the Chinese to take over the world. I mean, I don't buy any of that stuff. I'm saying
that is sort of, I think it's much more complicated and complex than anybody knows. But I seem to not be of the ilk that it was transmitted by a bat. I think anyway.
Well, you can ilk me till the cows come home, but this is one place where we're not going to agree.
So,
I mean, it's like looking at human immunodeficiency disease and saying it did not come from a rhesus monkey, or it did not come from this, or did not come from that. It was manufactured at Fort Detrick, Maryland, as a bioweapons project. That was the whole thing back in the 80s and 90s. The speculation. So I think it's less important as to where it came from, and more important than how you treat it, how you protect yourself from it, and how you boost your immune system. So that would be my personal take.
We need to focus on, definitely, but there's
when anybody always tells me it's my focus, but then I said it's just, anyway, that gets into my whole thing about but. The word but is ignore everything I said before, behold the underlying truth. But that's from my years in psychology. So.
Yeah, well,
anyway, we're not going to fight on Total Health Talk, but clearly Total Health Live, but we do have our points of disagreement.
Although unhealthy, I mean, clearly you see that we have different opinions about things, and that's fine.
It's diversity in the Total Health Live University.
That's healthy. I mean, it's healthy to have a debate, and we're not going to have a debate here. We'll have it off camera. So back to the recurrence. There's definitely recurrence, and this infographic also had, I mean, I don't know where it came from, who made it up, but it said you can drink lemon water and it eliminates the virus. Lo and behold. Lo and behold.
I just don't want to go there.
Yeah. I mean,
I think you're better off with Lowenbrow than Lo and Behold. So.
I'm not sure if this is sort of like a tester, like if you're that crazy. I saw.
I'm going to go with a beer cure. If you drink a 6-pack, if you put enough alcohol in your system, you'll kill the virus. I've actually heard people say that too, partly in jest and partly because they do believe that disinfectants ingested are going to help them. So. Don't drink Clorox or Lysol, please.
It was announced a couple of months ago, was it not?
Yes, proposed as something that's worth exploring.
I think common sense is really what we need to rely on, and dare I say that there's sometimes a lot of that missing, unfortunately.
I think most of us, the human species are famous. The human species, as a rule, is famous for acting emotionally and then rationalizing after the fact.
Well, yeah, we're built that way, aren't we?
Yeah.
We are definitely built that way. So, how to calm down? I mean, that's always an anxiety.
Should I be drinking chamomile tea right now?
Well, we talked about, you didn't, I didn't talk about it, but I saw on your solo performance a couple of weeks ago that you talked about headspace.
Oh, yeah.
And I just put that on my husband's laptop for him to benefit from. So we're just experimenting with that right now. And it's interesting, Headspace is providing free membership or free subscription for any LA County resident. Is that what
really? No, yeah. I know it from, because I used to subscribe to it years ago, and I dropped my subscription after about 2 years, I think, or so, and I went to Calm instead. I think a lot of people have seen the CALM app. They have these little commercials where they have 15 seconds of listening to the raindrops, and but Headspace is very interesting because at first it was free, and then they began a subscription model.
Right.
And that the guy's voice has been in my head forever. Whenever I hear his voice in an ad, it's all like, yes, and it's got that nice little UK voice to it.
I like to listen to like calming voices while I'm falling asleep. I don't need it every night, but last night I found a psychologist who also teaches Buddhism, and her name's Tara something, and it was very informative. It has to be interesting enough to keep me connected, but calming enough to put me to sleep.
I think Esther Hicks put me to sleep last night. So.
Oh, Esther's sometimes a little too animated for me. She gets me all excited.
Oh, she got me all calm. So there you go.
Oh,
it reminds me when I was selling pharmaceuticals many years ago. I was legally peddling pills and potions through the streets of Northwest Houston, as well as the Texas Medical Center, which, by the way, Texas Medical Center in Houston, a hotbed of activity now, such that adults are being sent to the Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was actually that Texas Medical Center, which is the COVID central right now for Texas. That was my route as a pharmaceutical rep. And I do remember that the admonition from one of my trainers that, after a while you looked at these long lists on medications, and what you recognize is any medication can cause any symptom you can imagine. And in fact, it's well documented that some people who are given tranquilizers get all amped up like they're on Red Bull. So it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, bioindividuality, which we talk about a lot, that's definitely the case. So this person, her name is Tara Brock, and I was just listening to an interesting YouTube lecture she gave about trauma, which I think is fascinating to listen to her and get some insights about trauma and how we might be able to manage and develop better coping skills. And because trauma in and of itself really depletes your ability to manage stress. So coping mechanisms, definitely rest is an important one. To aid you in developing.
I feel better now.
Developing good coping skills. Yeah. So rest, there's nothing like rest. I didn't get a lot of rest last night. I did a Christopher last night.
What do you mean you did a Christopher? You're up between 2 and 4?
Oh, is that really?
That's usually my methodology. I wake up at 2 in the morning and I stay awake till 4 or 5, something like that. Maybe get another hour of sleep, and then I decide to do. I really should just get up and start working.
So do you use anything to get yourself back to sleep?
Let's see. Good question. Not that I'm usually just listening to a meditation tape or something like that. That'll work. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I'm so wound up and have so many ideas in my head, like I'm. Looking at a third business for our little household here, and just all these ideas are just racing through my head. Now, if I write things down it will allow me to go to bed more easily and fall back asleep.
That's what I've done in the past when I've had too much on my mind. I just get up, do a brain dump, as you say.
Yeah.
So I do that, and then I can get back to sleep right away.
I have to mention to you, you're getting a little pixelated and your audio is getting a little choppy, and I'm a little concerned we may lose you. But but I'm just noticing it started a few minutes ago.
How is it now? Am I better?
It
was like this when we first started.
Yeah, but it got a little choppy there a little while ago. So because I ran a test and I
have this on, and maybe I should shut this off.
You got something on. What do you have on?
Lots of things on. This is another thing. We need to consider EMFs for all these because of all these devices we've got on all the time.
Well,
which can really fatigue you.
Yeah, I think it is potentially fatiguing. The thing about EMFs, it's very interesting because I have one relative in the family who is so concerned with EMFs that he created a large protective device that surrounds him almost 24/7.
And Does he live in an igloo?
No, but he's created one out of aluminum tin cans, steel cans.
That's bizarre. That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's a relative, a somewhat distant relative who really
very distant.
He's a very conspiracy oriented individual. That's all I can tell you. And
he's collecting a lot of everything.
He's a collector. Yes, a collector. Nothing goes to waste. So, but anyway, but the notion, I think some people can take things a little bit too far. I mean, the reality is, that so you look at many years ago, the same thing was said of television waves as well as radio waves, that radio waves were going to kill people because they were running through the air. And I mean, there may be something to the whole 5G thing. My dad used to use not quite a Faraday cage, but he did have some devices to prevent transmission within a particular room of the house. But it's very difficult to wire your entire house into a Faraday cage because that's a lot of copper wire. And as a result, I mean, I think there are some concerns. The other thing that gets me once in a while, too, is that, we are made of energy. Everything in the universe is energy. And you get to the certain point where you wonder how much of our energy, both in terms of thought and emotion and everything else, can be more constructive and more helpful in preventing the bad effects of EMF and the food you take in. So.
Yeah, I memean, we can go in extremes in any direction. I mean, there are people that don't trust anything they eat. Orthorexia, it's called, where
breatharians or no?
Well, they can't eat anything because they're afraid of eating anything or everything. I mean, you need to not be afraid of everything. I mean, that's depleting your health right from the get-go. So you want to be rational. I think we're talking a lot about being rational and logical here today about steps to take to better your health and keep your health and prevent, the disease process.
I think disease prevention is one part of it, and the other part, of course, is health promotion. Being healthier just renders you more immune to bad things. So,
yeah, healthy thoughts, healthy mind. Healthy everything. It's a state of mind, but it's also what you do. So you can't just rely on your state of mind. You also have to do things as well. You have to take action to keep yourself in good health.
I like to say that there's certain physical or natural laws that, your belief system may not be able to overcome. For example, if you walk off the Empire State Building at the 112th floor, I don't care if you're a mass murderer or you're the average Joe or you're the Pope himself, gravity is going to take hold of you, no matter how much belief you have that it will not.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's similar.
You can believe anything, but it may not work.
Yeah, I mean, there's similar laws in nutrition. If you drink water, you will be healthier than the person who drinks nothing but coffee. If you get some exercise, you're going to be far healthier than the person who lies in bed 23 hours a day.
I remember you said when we were doing our course, you talked about brilliant basics.
Yeah, become brilliant at basics. Be brilliant at basics. And that came from, originally, I think it was from Dr. John Whitney. Yes, of Whitney Management. That's what I used to prop up my, whoa, it took a dive.
Yeah, brilliant.
Sorry, Dr. John. Anyway, but he always said that you need to become brilliant at basics. And that goes a long way to all the other stuff that you may add on to it is not nearly as important as having the basics down.
Yeah. So did you do a fun thing this week did you do a brilliant basic fun thing this week, or just a brilliant
basic fun thing? I mean, the brilliant basic fun thing was severely restricting carbohydrates to the point where I think I was under 50 grams per day. And basically just eliminating bread, eliminating chips, eliminating some other stuff, and actually feeling not too bad. I mean, the desire is starting to fall away.
You weren't feeling really bad.
No, I mean, it just is what it is. And I also, aside from maybe 2 days, gave up alcohol completely too. And so I think maybe that's why I'm a little cranky today, because I didn't have any alcohol. So which is going to be hard because we're doing the marketing happy hour at the top of the hour. But it's interesting.
Like Hollywood does, just make it look like alcohol.
Yeah, well, no, that's what there's the other one, the opposite, whereas they make it look like tea. And so what they do is they tape a little tea bag that comes out of the cup, but they tape the inside, the thread, and they just fill it up with wine or vodka or whatever. And it looks like you're drinking a cup of tea. So
yeah. I had a sty on my eye,
You were trying to are you doing a Dr. Seuss? There was a sty on my eye and it made me cry.
My eye, and I'm happy to say that I tended to it immediately and it was gone the next day. So I used hot compresses, pretty much. Good. That was it, and a little bit of saline, and didn't put anything around the eyes. And I had this old bottle of baby shampoo, which is what you're supposed to use. And within days, it's gone. And I woke up and I thought, how am I going to do Total Health Live this week with this thing on my eye? But so I fixed it using just Google remedies and simple, brilliant basics. Brilliant basics.
You are starting to freeze up.
Did you hear anything?
We did hear. We heard that you were brilliant at Google and coming up with your hot compresses and I guess baby shampoo. And it was good in like 3 days or so. We got that
overnight.
Oh, overnight.
It was
did
gone.
You use the gentle no tears formula of Johnson?
I used the gentle no tears formula, so I continued using it for a few more days after the inflammation went down, the redness went down. But it sort of seeped out. It's usually pus filled. It seeped out the next morning. Gone. Done.
Welcome to our discussion of pus-filled lesions here on Total Health Live on a Friday. Recuperate. Yeah, because I think I actually thought you was tended to immediately because you went to the ER somewhere and got really well attended.
No, I have my own ER here at
Dr. Monika.
Home hospital.
Dr. Monika's home hospital.
Yes.
Are you accepting new patients?
No new patients allowed. We have enough.
We have enough with the one. But I was thinking, when you mentioned, I was thinking ER and stuff, and circling back to Headspace, they did have a program and they were advertising it both online and I think on the television that Headspace, the app, by the way, was available to people who can prove that they have become unemployed. Because being unemployed is a very stressful thing too. But I'm amazed that they've given it to everybody in LA County because that's pretty cool. So. Yeah.
My husband's therapist mentioned it to him a couple of weeks ago. So we're putting it on his Google Chromebook. It's Chromebook.
His groom book, because he was a groom at one point.
He was a groom, yeah. Twice actually, but
second time's the charm.
Yeah. That's what I hear, Christopher.
So they say.
So
what else is happening in healthcare news and things like that? We're coming. I mean, I think we're COVID-19 obsessed, by the way, only because there was a slightly flattening, and now we're off to the races again on that curve.
It's inclining again, and that's what I said when I looked at the graph today. I said, so much for the flattening the curve.
We don't flatten our curves. We're number one.
It is flattening in like New York, for example. I mean,
in fact, the best usage per capita of masks is in the Northeast of the United States, because they've seen how bad it can get and they've gotten in the habit of wearing it. So from New York to Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, the Northeast are the best mask wearers in this country.
California was initially, and then we got a little bit. Yeah, and then we got a little bit. Oh, it's beach. It's California beaches. It's summertime. Yeah,
I look at the place. I look at the place where we were today over at Coronado Beach, and I think it's considered, making a little sign and putting it over the top saying, "Welcome to Vector Beach."
I've had a couple of people recommending that I go take a respite go somewhere for 3 days, and I'm like, where would I go? To a hotel or B&B and sit in my room anyway?
We were looking at that too, because we were considering. So here's one of the things when you're considering family vacations this summer, and I really do think that the ultra staycation is probably the best. Maybe a road trip where you don't do much of anything. But we had even considered camping, and it was like, no, camping, I don't know. Unless I had a big RV where I could control the bathroom, I don't know if I want to go into a campground.
That's what you have to think about if you're doing a road trip. I mean, you have to go into stores to get food.
I'm thinking like a day trip somewhere, just maybe for a change of scenery and then coming back home. So. Because these are highly unusual times, and the fact that the infection rate in San Diego is just starting to skyrocket. Not as bad as LA County, we're still pretty good, but in Coronado we've gone from I think 27 cases to I think it's 35 in a matter of a week, and that's a lot for this town of 26,000 people, where at least for the beginning most people were indeed wearing masks. So. Yeah,
and I think last I checked yesterday, LA County was down and Riverside County had gone up, and some other counties were going up. So,
well, they're right next door. Yeah, and Riverside, that Riverside's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because LA County is the biggest county in the state, so it is massive. But so I've seen also the county that I'm right at the border of, Ventura County, that they've been seeing an upsurge, but not as much. I mean, not a lot. But it's tricky. We are so vulnerable and so.
Well, I mean, and this strikes me as very interesting, because you watch police officers here wear masks. The emergency technicians wear masks. The garbage workers are all wearing masks. The store owners wear masks. And so, most people who are in positions of responsibility are being responsible and wearing masks.
I saw a picture just now on Facebook. It says, no mask, no brain, no service.
Yeah, because my major concern is that all of the no mask wearers are going to be taking up space in the ICUs in months to come, and some of them may very well be unable to pay those bills or be forced into bankruptcy. So really, a lot of people don't consider the financial aspects of having COVID-19, because if you do, and it can happen to anybody. My nephew is I think he's 24, and he got a significant case of COVID-19 way up in northern New York State, which is where you wouldn't expect that to be the case.
I think the financial impact is very in front of on people's minds, but it has more to do with jobs, how it's personally impacting them, not necessarily the whole medical system, how that's going to be affected. It's more of a personal impact. I don't have a job. How am I going to eat? How am I going to pay my rent? It's really
Yeah, it's a tremendous displacement and disruption of society. I mean, you think about all the restaurants that we have around here. We had restaurants that were just opening for the very first time back in March, and they were closing within a week or two later of opening. And so their entire business models were just destroyed in a short period of time because there are only so many tables that you can put 6 feet apart or more. And there's only so much social distancing or physical distancing you can do in a restaurant. And there are only so many employees, cooks, busboys, waiters, waitresses that you need when you have lower capacity. And so what we're going to see, in my opinion, is, restaurants are probably going to be one of the worst businesses to be hit, along with hotels and casinos and things of that.
The airline industry too, because I think people are still afraid of flying.
I'm not flying. I'm not flying, and I even have a pass from my sister to go flying, but I'm not flying.
I think people are, like pushing the envelope. I want to have a normal summer. So let's start planning. Let's, like what we were talking about. Yeah. Should we go on a day trip? Should we go on a road trip? But we can't.
We've been using our imaginations trying to stay healthy and yet amuse ourselves. And so we have, like, with the redhead, my wife and I, we have Dance Party USA. So we'll crank up the sound system and stuff. And there's dancing in the kitchen, food, celebrating, yahooing, and all kinds of stuff. And we've just decided to celebrate life at a physical distance from those we are uncertain of in terms of their infection. So,
what's interesting, a lot of the upsurge also was the things that they were finding, that people were having these parties or these.
Oh, we had some in the alleys here. We had some beer parties in the alleys here and the police shut them down.
Well, I'm talking about like birthday parties, graduation parties, where they invite a little bit more extended. Like my best friend, one of my best friends, she had her birthday in June, but she's in a city that really has a very low amount of cases. So she did have about 12 people for her birthday at her home. So that's what they were pointing to. They were pointing to these like gatherings where there's not just the core group, but like other families and other families.
I think,
they're enclosed in their homes.
That has been one of our concerns, actually, because you don't know. We know people.
Don't know where that other person has been.
We know people, and we don't know where they've been, and they've been out with other friends, and we don't know where those friends have been, and their friends' friends have been. And so I think you get to the point where it's not being possessed by fear, but it's being prudent, it's being logical, and it's coming to a recognition that until such time as you have universal testing and that you have really good tracing to find out who might have had it and who they were in contact with, it's not terribly safe.
It's like a new way of the 6 degrees of separation. New way of describing.
Forget Kevin Bacon. I would prefer bacon at this point to a COVID infection. So.
Well, I mean, that's been my concern with my aides too, and we just hired a new one too. So I'm really limiting the people that come into the house. I just have to. But my husband will be coming home from his dialysis, and he's waiting in the lobby. Who's passing him by? He is wearing a mask. Sometimes they double mask him, actually.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense too. And so so let's consider this: he's double masked. And he's waiting in the lobby, and he's not dead.
He's not. And also, he gets an IVIG every week, which is helping his immune system. Right. He, has his vitamin D levels checked and everything checked all the time. His A1C, which is a diabetes marker, a blood glucose marker, is always good. So he's lucky because he's being monitored on a regular basis. He's pretty much got 24-hour care. But who has that? I mean,
it's 24-hour care is something that's incredibly rare in this country, unless you're in the ICU. And I don't imagine any of us want to be there. So
I'm not talking about aides who are 24-hour. I'm talking about me as well.
I know, because you are one of those aides. So we have to wind this up.
What time is it? Oh my goodness!
I'm at the top of the hour, and I'm running to another broadcast. But we will be in touch. We'll be in touch on our own personal controversy as to the origin of the COVID-19. By the way, it is SARS. It is the SARS. Coronavirus 19.
Yes, it is SARS.
SARS. It's SARS.
All right. Stay healthy, everyone.
Stay healthy. It's SARS, but it's not ours.
It's not ours. Stay healthy, everyone, and see you next
week. Stay
week.
safe. Use masks. Stay physically distant from people. Take your vitamin D, as Monika recommends. Get plenty of C, plenty of rest, and we'll see you next week at the same time.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.